Let me give you a little background really quick. I found an article. Paulie pointed out to me, Entrepreneur Magazine, which I couldn't find. Then I got a copy. Did somebody steal it? I thought I left it in here. It's somewhere in here. I had a copy. I might have left it in my office. Anyway, there you go. Entrepreneur Magazine put out a piece, and they said Tucson is one of the, I don't think they said top 5, but they said 5. They named 5 hotspots for entrepreneurial hubs, and we're a hotspot for it. And then I sit back, and maybe I'm tainted over 3.5 years here, and I see businesses being chased away, potholes growing larger, anti-business sentiment anywhere from Tucson and even Pima County supervisors. So it's there. And I'm thinking, how are we an entrepreneurial hub? Who the hell's going to want to invest in an idea here when they make it impossible for you to actually start a business? And then I see this story, Slicker City. And maybe it's just, I think they need to specify. It says Tucson is nurturing long-term small business success, and I'm thinking nurture. Then I think of the city council and the mayor, and I'm like, well, are they really nurturing? And they tell people to go pound sand, and you have to go through a 17-step process to get a business license, and there's a 52-page process for the business privilege tax, and it just goes on. I'm like, what? So I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? And I contact the guy that wrote this, and he told me I should contact the founder of Startup Tucson, Justin Williams, who's in here right now. Thank you for coming down. And you were trying to tell me yesterday, you had you on the show, you called in yesterday, I appreciate it, just to go over some details about everything that's going on. Before we go any further, Startup Tucson, and tell me if I'm wrong here, if I want people to know, and this is why we're talking about this, because this is actually some positive news. For the most part, and this is what I like, you say, hey, I know how tough it is to get people with ideas, to get them in touch with people with money, people that have ideas, what to do in the next step to make their idea come to fruition. That's basically what Startup Tucson does, right?
Right. Yeah. Our goal is to create. I heard you don't like this term, but a startup ecosystem in Tucson.
That's funny. Yeah. Well,
I'm ducking over here because I'm afraid I'm going to get punched.
No, that's okay. It's just funny. I love these startup ecosystem. Yeah. Because it's just like an entire city of startup jobs. I mean, we have to call it these fancy words and call it an ecosystem. Yeah.
Well, so what we're looking at is that, I mean, you've talked about this for a long time, that Tucson has an issue with growing businesses here, yes. Right? I mean, we have a lot of entrepreneurial culture, a ton of it, I think,
and nobody knows about it.
Right. Well, this article is helping, right? And our goal as Startup Tucson, we started a couple of years ago, and the whole point was to sort of catalyze what is out there. And one of the things we noticed early on was that people, as soon as we started running some of these events, people would walk up and be like, I had no idea this was going on in Tucson. Exactly. I had no idea that anything like this existed. And the truth was that it didn't exist until 2 years ago. I mean, we had tons of events and programming, but a lot of these things happen in isolation. If you were a student at the U of A, you went into the McGuire Entrepreneurship Program. It's in the business school. It's one of the top-ranked entrepreneurship programs in the world, but it's focused on students. And unfortunately, I was a student in the program. All too often what happens is that students leave, move to another city, get a job at Intel, or and they don't necessarily create the business here, even if they go launch their company. I mean, there's a couple of companies that have been on Shark Tank that are U of A companies, but they moved to Phoenix and Philadelphia in order to do that.
And again, the reason is because it's easier probably to start a business. There's a better chance to succeed because we have just some awful people in charge that don't have a clue when it comes to business.
I think in those cases, I don't think entrepreneurs are thinking about the city council. I mean, they're obviously not, but especially
then why would they move?
They moved because the capital was available somewhere else, right? The investment came from somewhere else. It pulled them somewhere else. But they didn't have an overriding community that overrode that.
Well, and that's the thing, not to dwell, but why do you think there was a lack of capital here? Because
the investment has changed. No, well, I mean, we've got the Desert Angels, right? The Desert Angels, in the last couple of years, the Desert Angels have grown dramatically.
They're a venture capitalist.
Yeah, and their profile has been raised dramatically. And, well, they're a group of high net worth investors that are accredited. They meet once a month. They have a pipeline review process. They've been around for 10 years. In the last couple of years, they've really taken off, and they've made a lot of investments, and they're now one of the top 10 investment groups in the country.
And to get in front of them, you got to, like you say, go to their website, fill out paperwork, they contact you, and then you pretty much go in front of them and give them a pitch, just like Shark Tank.
Absolutely. And you go through multiple stages of it. And so teams move for a lot of reasons. What we saw that we could solve was that there was a lack of a place to plug in, right? When you left the McGuire program, there were only a handful of other ways to get connected, and they weren't regular. So my background, I used to run a trade association called the Arizona Technology Council. It's still around. It does a great job. It focuses more on the high-end tech companies that are here in Tucson. And the last event before I left was to run Startup Weekend. And the whole point that I've been trying to figure out, how do I get these CEOs and people with ideas and people really highly motivated, instead of sitting around having a mixer talking about sports, how do we get them to build something great? How do we take these cool conversations that I was seeing on the side and turn that energy into something actionable? And so Startup Weekend was the catalyst for this whole process, and we realized that if we started running these Startup Weekends once a year, and we run something called Startup Drinks once a month, it gives us a storefront for people with ideas to walk into. Hang out with other people with ideas or with experiences or money. I mean, a friend of mine moved here from the Bay Area, and he'd run a couple of startups up there, and he came to the first Startup Drinks that we did, and he was sitting next to a venture capitalist and the chairman of our angel group, and he's like, you can't do this in the Bay Area. This is amazing that you have the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and sit and have a drink with these guys on a regular basis.
And shoot the breeze and give them your idea, and they might go, well, that's interesting. And that's how it starts, right?
It is. But what's really interesting, I think, is that there's 50 other entrepreneurs hanging out, doing the same thing, talking to each other. And each of these people has an idea, but they don't necessarily have all the pieces. They don't know all the details of how to go from where they are now to where they need to be. And so in addition to creating these sort of community networks and a storefront or we're waving a flag saying, hey, come, we've got this community, we're also providing education, and we're providing programming that helps move a would-be entrepreneur through a set of tools that allow them to figure out, okay, is this idea, does it have any traction? Is there anybody out there that really wants it? What do I need to do to satisfy an investor? What pieces of the puzzle do I need to put together before I stand up and say, hey, I've got something? And how do I do it without spending any money or as little money as possible? And how do I help them? I mean, in many ways, I want to help entrepreneurs fail, and I want to help them fail really quickly, because you don't want to spend a year waiting to fail, right? If you're doing it wrong, if you're doing the wrong thing, you don't want to sit around for a year and spend $100,000 and find out at the end that you made a mistake that you could have figured out in the beginning by a couple of easy tools and put them in place and start using them.
So basically, the actual idea of the program itself, like the actual idea of the product itself, is not generally discussed. It's more of, I have this idea, it's X, but how do I get people involved to fund me? Where's my next step? How do I get people to work with me? So it's not like, because we were all worried about, again, getting Winklevossed.
Right, absolutely.
Everybody
who walks up, everybody who's got an idea walks up and is worried about the same thing. And I mean, I don't want to pretend like it doesn't happen, right? I mean, but at the same time, the Winklevoss twins, they made some cash. Would they have built this if they didn't approach somebody to build it for them, right?
Are ideas being stolen at Gangplank? Does that happen?
No.
I think Gangplank is a place in Tucson, downtown.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's in downtown Tucson, where it's just like a big open room where people sit at tables, get Wi-Fi, and can talk about, I guess, anything. And they're encouraged to share ideas, but not necessarily, oh, I have the idea to make the best app for this, or I have the next best pizza recipe. It's I have this idea, but how do I make it come to fruition?
Well, yeah, so if you have an idea and you sit quietly in your room thinking of all the great things that you could do with this idea and never telling a customer, you're never going to sell anything, right? So there's a concern. I mean, there's a legitimate concern to a certain degree about whether or not you should keep your idea to yourself. If you are ready to build and there's nothing keeping you from doing this, then don't tell anybody. Just go do it, and you're gonna be a huge success, or you're gonna fail, and everything. You'll figure it out really quickly. If you're just sitting around, you've got this great idea, and no one's pushing you to do it, and you keep thinking about it, but it's just sort of in your head. The energy that you get from being around a bunch of other people who are going to push you to do more is way more valuable than the idea that you have. And there's the same idea. The idea that you're sitting there thinking about is, I mean, there's billions of people on this planet. They're all, and we've got hundreds of millions of people in the United States. They're thinking of these same things too, right? I had a guy approach me the other day that he wanted to build an app. He didn't want to tell me what the app was. It was so transparent that as soon as I tell you it, you're going to be able to steal it and go build it. I'm like, I'm not going to steal it, but if you don't do anything with it, how are you going to find out if anybody wants this? How are you going to find out if anybody's willing to invest in it? No investor is going to sign a non-disclosure agreement that says you need to, that they're going to sign this away, because they see 1,000 ideas a month and they can't keep them straight. So they're not willing to sign away some legal document that says, oh, I swear I didn't give this away. And so you need to figure out which is more important to you, getting this thing done or keeping this beautiful idea in your head.
So that's the choice people make. We're talking with Justin Williams, the founder and CEO of Startup Tucson. You go to startuptucson.com, you find out more. And you have a regular job.
I do. Well,
right?
I've got multiple jobs.
You have multiple jobs. But do you make any money off of this Startup Tucson?
No.
Or are you just doing it because...
for the last couple of years, it's been all volunteer. We're actually in the process of, we've got a lot of momentum, and we're really starting to have an impact. And we need to grow up as an organization as well.
And I'm not against you making money. I'm just...
No, but,
because people want to know, how do they benefit from this? How do you benefit?
Yeah.
Do you just do it for the community? Do you want to just see business grow in Tucson? Or
So I quit a job where I was paid to do these kinds of community initiatives. To go back to school, I'm actually working on my PhD, so I'm a student and a researcher at the U of A.
Okay.
But when I left, I ended up picking up this other job that was as much work as the other, and I've been doing it for the last 2 years for no pay. But we need to figure out how to grow up as an organization, and as a community, and it's going to happen kind of one after the other. What we're realizing is that Startup Tucson is starting to have an impact, starting to make some difference in helping launch companies or helping entrepreneurs launch their own companies, and we don't take responsibility for any of this stuff.
But again, and I just look at it this way because I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
And I think everything has a value, and you should get paid based upon your value and the revenue you generate. I mean, if people are coming to you because you have answers and advice, I think there's a value to that.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's almost like you need to be your own firm in that aspect. I mean, should people pay you $25 an hour to find out if they could do what they need to do?
No, that's not how I think that it's going to work. So my prior job was with the Arizona Tech Council. They are a high-tech trade association. They charge membership, and they're established companies. The reason that this couldn't be a program of the Tech Council is that the Tech Council's business model is we need to serve people who can afford to pay our membership dues.
Yes.
And if a startup is paying some membership due, they're spending their money on the wrong thing. They need to be spending their money on their product that they're building, or the talent that they need to hire to make it successful, or marketing to get the word out, right? And so in our case, Startup Tucson wasn't going to be part of a model like that. What we've done is we're going around to people who or institutions that can fund an organization like this privately, and raising funds in a so high net worth investors and things like that. We also run programming, and some of the programming creates a little bit of revenue, but generally it's not very much. But our focus is how do we make this initiative sustainable over the next 20 years? Because we're not going to build or rebuild or grow the culture in Tucson in the next year or two, right? This needs to be a long-term sustainable push in our community to help us look and act like a community that can build itself up from the bootstraps. And we have all the talent, we have tremendous resources here, we have all kinds of things going for us. We're not all that coordinated, and that's a big piece of what we've tried to do is coordinate a lot of these things and fill gaps where things where there are gaps, and look to solve problems.
So what do you get out of this?
So right
besides
now,
personal satisfaction,
the last couple of years, I mean,
like how do you make money? How do you feed your family? So
my wife is an attorney, so she works here in town. I took a reasonable paying job to go back and take a dirt paying job.
But what do you eventually want to do with this?
So in the end, I think the goal is to that we'll have paychecks for a couple of people. I mean, we're not ever going to be a big organization, but I think the main thing is to be able to. So we're building a news outlet, a media organization called Startup Tucson News, and the focus of that is to be able to tell the stories of what's going on here on a regular basis, right? Because there's just not enough pages, there's not enough bandwidth, but there's a lot of really interesting things going on. So we want to hire a managing editor for that outlet. We want to put a bunch of these pieces together, and then in the end, I'm sure that we'll hire a number of staff, but it'll just be 2 or 3 people.
So this is going to be a side thing. You're going back to school. You're going to get a regular job, and this is going to be just something that you see because you think it's the right thing to do, which is cool.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people in town we've got a volunteer community. We call them organizers of 50 or 60 people that volunteer in different ways because they're passionate. I mean, entrepreneurs get passionate about this stuff. Right?
Okay. Well, we're going to continue. We have Justin Williams in here. He's the founder and CEO of StartupTucson.com. I want to hear some stories of success, things that have been churned out, things. And again, is it all apps or is it other business ideas? I want to get into that because people are listening right now and they're thinking, I may kind of have an idea. I don't know if this qualifies or not. And sometimes people are scared. Do I want to go, and am I going to get laughed at? So we'll get into all that coming up in about 4 minutes. 8:23 right now. It's Garrett Lewis right here on KNST.
When officials go after your gun rights, we call them out. We're not scared. We're KNST.
8:30 in the morning. It's Garrett Lewis, the Morning Ritual on KNST. And I am in studio with the founder and CEO of Startup Tucson. And again, I'm looking at this, and I like moving fast. I like moving quickly, and I think that's what you guys like to do, and I think that's how you succeed nowadays. You can't sit on your butt because there are too many people, too much competition that want to move quickly, and that's what you guys facilitate. The old school way of thinking, Justin, is again, like you said, the mixers. You get together, you BS, you have a few drinks, you go home, nothing really happens. And you guys, and I get it, you're like saying, can't we just speed this up and put people with ideas to people that know how to make the ideas happen with funding or experience? Why not?
Yep.
That's what you guys do.
Yep.
So I know you guys have only been around since 2011. That's what you told me. And I'm asking for success stories because I just measure things in that aspect. And you're saying it's still pretty new. But, I mean, what kind of companies, what kind of ideas, if you can talk about them, what have come out, what has happened?
So probably our biggest success story is a company called Metropia. They were one of the original teams the first year, the very first event we did in 2011. They ended up being one of the winners of that Startup Weekend event. And their app that they pitched and they worked on over the weekend is a mobile app that incentivizes people to travel at different times by giving them information about traffic flows. And it gives them coupons and other incentives, like Groupon kinds of things, to change their departure time because they'll get there on a better time by having all these sort of predictions. It's research that came out of the U of A. They came to the event and it sort of catalyzed their company. They've gone on to roll this out and test in a couple of other cities, and we're getting ready to publish an article that they've landed a $2 million contract.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you helped get, because your event, they were able to talk to people that could help them get their business to the next level, their idea.
Yeah, a huge piece of what investors invest in and a huge piece of what makes an idea become successful is the team, right? If you have the right team, you have the right people at the table, and they used the event as a vehicle to really focus on taking what was university research and turning it into a company. They lined up a couple of team members. I mean, I think they've in the last couple of years they've grown and grown slowly and worked through some of the early stages of growth. They raised $200,000 after the event in that first year. They turned that into a prototype, turned it into a more professional product, turned it into a marketing, and have turned it into a real company with $2 million in contracts.
Now let's just talk really quick about this Entrepreneur Magazine article, because again, it has Tucson listed as one of the 5 best cities for entrepreneurs.
Emerging cities.
Emerging, not best. Emerging. I see slicker cities, the next Silicon Valley. That's what they're looking for. I think they had Baton Rouge, they had Corvallis up in Oregon. So I mean, it's not you'd think San Francisco, New York, Chicago, but I guess they're already established.
Yeah.
How did you get yourself on this list? This guy Shane Reiser that has this website that wrote this piece for Entrepreneur Magazine. How did he find you?
So Shane used to be the COO of Startup Weekend, and so when we first went to go create the event, I met him in Austin and was proposing that we do something like Startup Weekend in Tucson. And then we've stayed in touch over the years. He called me because he was wanting to put what I didn't realize at the time was that he was going to be featuring us. But he called to say, I've been following what you're doing and I'm writing this article. Can you tell me a little bit about Tucson? So I told him, the things that we've been working on. And I think that what he'd been seeing is why he called. But what we talked about is, I think, why he featured us. Because at the end of the phone call, I was talking about this pipeline that we'd put together, what he calls a conveyor belt in the article. And he said, more people need to be doing that. More cities, more communities around the country need to be doing that because it's very thoughtful and deliberate. And what I didn't realize was that at the end of that phone call, what was going to happen was we were the featured city out of the cities.
And again, the pipeline, the conveyor belt, you're talking about getting your events and putting people with money and how to complete an idea to the people that have the idea and want to find out how to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so Startup Weekend starts out with, on Friday night, you get an audience of maybe 100 people. Half of them have an idea they want to share. The other half are just there to work on an idea and see if they can make something out of it. 50 people pitch an idea, they get 1 minute. So you're going from a 1 minute description of an idea into potentially at the end of this a funded company. That's the pipeline.
And you do that in front of the whole crowd, other people's idea.
Yeah.
So is anybody apprehensive that I have this idea, but I don't want to tell you what it is, but it's really cool.
Yeah. People are apprehensive, and there are certain circumstances where you should be quiet, right? If you've got an invention that is patentable, as soon as you disclose how that invention works, your clock starts ticking on being able to create a patent, and you don't want that. Mm-hmm. You want to save that for later. And we ask them if you've got something that's patentable and you really believe it, then talk about what that thing will do and how it will impact customers. But you don't have to talk about how you built it.
And how often are these events?
So Startup Weekend is once a year right now. We're looking at potentially adding some others. Startup Drinks is once a month. Mm-hmm. But the pipeline itself is actually about 6 different events or programming, and each one is sort of representative of a piece of the puzzle. So Startup Weekend is the idea stage, and it's just 54 hours long. There's another event that we run called Hackathon, so it's more for software kinds of things, but that's 24 hours long, and it's just to build a quick prototype.
I want to get into more of these. I just have to take a quick news break, but I want to get into more of these events, how often they happen, how people can get involved, and again, besides apps, because it seems like everyone has an app, but I mean, how many jobs can an app create? I understand the ideas behind it. Are there other, and I want you to answer this, are there other, I guess, ideas that can actually create jobs here in Tucson? We'll get to that.
We have an issue with the border. Find out the latest happening down there. Drug bust, illegal alien arrests. It's all there. KNST.com. Keyword border.
842. It's the Morning Ritual. Garrett Lewis here on KNST. Yeah, in studio with the founder of and CEO. It's pretty cool to, the CEO aspect of it. CEO of anything. Yeah. Why not, right? Yeah. I mean, CEO of this show. It sure ain't you, Obi.
I wouldn't be bragging about that, though.
You shut your mouth. StartupTucson.com founder and CEO Justin Williams is in here with me, and I've said for the longest time that we have the U of A, and we can never keep the kids here. My wife is here; she works here, she has a great job. It's just hard to find good-paying jobs. I'm not the only person that says this. This is why when I saw the entrepreneur thing, I said, wait a second, though. Okay, why would someone want to invest if it's hard to actually make the business happen here? And that's why I'm glad you're here, because we're talking about that. And we'll talk about some other businesses and that kind of stuff in just a second. But, it's just, you look at it, that's why I think a lot of people leave. So you guys are basically saying, we want to have these ideas come to fruition. We're trying to make it easy for that to happen. Put A with B to make C. Therefore, you can keep some of these U of A kids.
Yep.
And make Tucson grow economically, right?
Yep. And the U of A talent, I mean, we spent a lot of time here talking about U of A talent, but that's not that's a piece of the puzzle, and it's a piece of the puzzle that I think is missing and we want to work on. But this isn't for students. This isn't a student activity. It's for, and it's not tech. I mean, it's not exclusively tech. It's certainly not exclusively young. I think it's natural that younger people are going to get this because and it's natural that apps and websites are going to be part of the conversation. But Tucson is not Silicon Valley. And so for us to be successful at what we're doing, we need to fit our strategies to what Tucson's strengths are, right? We're an aerospace and defense town. We may not want to be that forever. We may want to grow from that, but we need to strengthen that. We're an optics town, right? We're a bio-life sciences town, right? We need to be focused on, we need to make these kinds of things successful. In fact, we changed Startup Weekend from the rules of you have to come in with an idea and nothing more to this year we're actually allowing pre-worked on projects. And it started last year because a life sciences student, a PhD student, came to Startup Weekend and she had an idea she wanted to use her research. And our rules were like, you've been working on this for 5 years. This is not fair. This year we just changed the rules and said, we want these things that are being built here to be part of this process and pipeline because they could become great. Just because they've been working on it doesn't mean it's not great.
And it's right. It's a smart move. Hey, American Idol can change the rules.
Yep.
Right? You guys can too. Just you always want to change and get better and adapt.
Right.
And again, so basically, not just for the U of A students, you also want to make it to where you get the reputation. You help Tucson's reputation change to where we attract businesses to come here, which will attract more jobs and more people to want to come here as well.
I mean, Entrepreneur Magazine says we're one of the emerging hotspots. Well, okay. I mean, it's great news. It's great national publicity.
Yeah.
That's super important. Someone said that you got to fake it till you make it. I've heard that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to act. If you don't believe in yourself, if you're not working at it, then you need to. You're not going to get as far as if you really have a confidence that you can do these things. And that's how we started as an organization. I think that's how we're going to start as a community, is we really just start acting the part.
Let's talk to Tom real quick. He has a question about things that you do, and I guess something like this would happen at your startup weekend. Tom, welcome to KNST. Thanks for hanging on.
Good morning, Garrett. Good morning, Justin.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. You really perked up my ear. I have an invention. It's a prototype. It's a tool. I have a utility patent pending. We're in the final stages between my patent attorneys here in Tucson and the office that they call the USPTO. I've had this product in my head for 8 years. I'm a truck driver. This is related to transportation industry. And the tool that I have solves a problem that the DOT and the FMCSA is asking every commercial driver to accomplish that they cannot accomplish. It's asking them to do something that cannot physically be done.
That's
my question to you is,
potential.
sir, how do I continue? I'm a truck driver. I'm out of money. I need help. I need somebody with investment money to take it to the next step.
Yep. So there's no easy answers, right? But if you want, so I don't want you to give away too much information on the radio. B, if you're interested in learning more about it, we actually run an event on August 20th called What is Startup Weekend. If you want to go to the website and come to that, we can chat a little bit about your idea in particular. We can do it in private, and we can talk about the process and see. I mean, it's triage, right? Where are you? What do you need? Everybody's situation is different. So
right.
Unfortunately, I don't have I don't want to give you an answer on the air. But I do want to. But there are definitely possibilities. There's things like SBIRs. It's Small Business Innovation and Research funding that comes from the federal government. There's a potential that if this solves one of the areas of need that they have that they want to allocate to small business funding, you could get funding from a program like that. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a Arizona Innovation Challenge grant that's out there. Twice a year, the state of Arizona puts out $1.5 million to 6 companies that have great products that could do great things.
And all this is on your website?
I can help you. Some of that is on the website. Some of that I can help you with. I'm happy to. If you come to the event on the 20th.
I don't care what I give away right now. I have a video. I've got a 3-minute video posted on my channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've got a website.
Again, you know what?
I'm not being private anymore because I have a patent pending.
That's fine. Yeah.
I'm happy to meet with you and talk in person more. So sure. I'm more than happy to do that.
Do I get 10% since it's my radio show and I gave you the ability to make this happen?
I'll give you 10% of everything you give me.
My attitude is at this point, if I make $1 more than I've ever made with this product, then I've made profit.
Okay, so go to startuptucson.com and you can connect to Justin that way. Okay.
I love you, Garrett.
Well, it's plutonic, right? It's
entrepreneurs are passionate people.
It's a guy thing. You're good. You guys are great. I love you guys.
Thank you, Tom. Take care, man. See ya. Generally like when women say that, but I'll take that for what it is. It's better than I hate you, right? So is that the kind of situation that happens at Startup Weekend?
Happens all the time. Happens at Gangplank. Happens when we go to Startup Drinks. That's somebody. I think we need somebody whose job it is to field those sorts of things and figure out which ones are the ones that we can put more energy into and which ones are ones that they need to hear that this isn't the best thing.
Like you say, fail quickly. That way you can come up with a different idea sooner.
Yep, because entrepreneurs have lots of ideas. They just move on to the good ones.
Okay, so you basically, you have Startup Weekend once a year.
Yep.
Do you meet every month, every 2 weeks, every Friday? How does that work?
So we do Startup Drinks once a month. We rotate it. This month it'll be next Tuesday at the Hive, which is one of the new co-working spaces. It's owned by Fletcher McCusker, who founded Providence Service Corporation, $1 billion company. He grew. He's starting his next company. Hopefully it grows to another $1 billion. It's in his offices there. It'll be next Tuesday night. And then the Startup Weekend is once a year. We do hackathons, and we're helping create a maker fair. Hackathons are for software. Maker fairs are for people who build things, whether it's electronics or hardware, arts, things like that. And the goal is really to engage talented people into this whole ecosystem. And so
I just laugh at words.
Yes.
I laugh at how people use words for other things. Come on,
and
how
rightly
can you not?
Rightly so.
How can you not?
There's a lot of pretentious words in the startup culture.
Thank you.
It's true.
That's why in bumper stickers and that, it is what it is.
Yep.
I get it. We laugh at it here when management uses those words. How do you not laugh at it? It's like the people, and this is no offense, but the reason I do it because I know you're giving me the evil eye and I get emails and comments and everything. Who talks that way? I laugh at that at radio.
We're
who talks that way?
leveraging things here. We're leveraging things in Startup Tucson.
Leverage. I love it. That's fantastic. Look, okay, so you do all that, and all your stuff's at startuptucson.com. Are you surprised you're not getting more coverage this way? Again, I'm a guy that's in the media. I get contacted all the time. I'm always looking at stuff, always seeing what's happening. If I would have seen this a year ago, I would have talked about it.
We get the last 3 months we've gotten tons of TV interviews, and we get written up like once a month and been on other radio programs. Written? They have publications in this world. Yeah.
Who reads things? Paper? What's paper? Okay, so we have that. Real quick, can you talk about some things that are non-app? Because people might be saying, do I go? Do I not go? What are some non-app related things?
So one of the guys who came last year, he actually there's two going on. So one of them was somebody who wanted to build a he's been working on this product for 15 years and hadn't quite figured it out. And really, in the end, that's a lot of what we do. Is there a customer? Is there a market? How do we figure out how to fit what you've got in mind with what the customers really want? And it was an environmental product to build walls out of a different type of technology. And we worked with him. He didn't get to present at Startup Weekend, but he went through Lean Launchpad, which is the 8-week program we do after that. And we really sit and work with teams to figure out, okay, give us a quick sense of who your customers are, who you think they are, because in the end, what you propose that they are probably not really who you should be talking to. What is the value of the product that you're building, and how does it fit with those customers, and what is the customer's pain point? And you look at this process that we use, and it's pretty simple. It's wrapped in new words called Lean Startup, but it's been around for a lot of years. But the idea is to do this really quickly, move really fast, and it applies to anything where you're trying to sell it, because no matter whether it's a piece of plastic or piece of dirt, real estate, it doesn't matter. You've got some sort of business model. The only place that our process doesn't really work is if you're building a franchise, you're buying a business model, right? It's already there. If you're starting a restaurant, even with a restaurant, it may seem like it's already sort of a pre-existing thing, but how do you position it? How do you position it within the market? So, it can be any of these things, right?
Well, that's it. So again, you're basically refining business models. If it's going to work or not work.
Searching for business models.
And that's what it is. And again, it doesn't cost anybody to go down and ask you guys this. Does it cost any money?
Yeah, no. Our event, some of the events, Startup Weekend is $100, but you get food it includes food all weekend, a T-shirt. You get access to great mentors.
I just want to put it out there because some people might go, damn, I'm going to have to pay $1,000 to get advice. Because some people do that. You guys don't.
No,
I just want
our
to
goal
let
is
that know.
We're not trying. We recognize that entrepreneurs that we're trying to help aren't going to be able to pay $1,000 an hour for consulting services.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, we'll wrap up. 3 minutes. Justin Williams. The website is startuptucson.com. You can go there. Can
I plug one thing? Are we done?
No, we'll back 3 minutes.
Okay,
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Talk to you about that.
We'll plug you in 3 minutes. It's KNST.
Listen live at KNST.com.
8:57 right now. This will all be on the podcast, right, Ob? Yeah, damn right. There's an app for that. iHeartRadio. So Justin Williams, you have a program? You're actually helping out younger kids, right?
Yeah. So we've got a program this weekend called School for Startups, and it started a year ago. I've got a 4. At the time, he was 4 when I started this Startup Weekend thing, and he walked with me. We put up posters all up and down 4th Avenue and downtown all over, and he would walk up. He was so great. He'd walk up and the people at the counters would say, oh, absolutely, we can put this in. The next year, we decided, okay, I want to get him involved in this, and we ran Startup Weekend for kids, and it was a 5-year-old to 12-year-olds. And this year, we're running a whole weekend for middle school kids. And we've kind of developed this whole set of programming around youth education for entrepreneurship, because when you look at our strategy, it's really to make an impact over the next 20 years, like a sustainable long-term impact on Tucson. And there's things that we can do now that will have an impact today, but the things that we can do today that will have an impact 20 years from now, we can do that now, and that's working with kids. So we take it's almost exactly the same curriculum. For adults, we package it into bite-sized pieces for kids, and we run it all weekend. You can go to our website and register. It's a lot of fun, and there's some cool young entrepreneurs out there that have potential to do this.
Get their minds in that. I think that's fantastic. It's something that's not always taught in school. Justin Williams, startuptucson.com. Thank you so much for coming in.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks.